March Forward Girl by Melba Patillo Beals. Narrated by Mr. Townsend, 8th grade ELA, AGW. Chapter 14 Santa is in Town. At Gibbs Elementary School, the Monday morning before Christmas, all the students in grades 1 through 6 were excited with talk of the Christmas play. We sat at our desks quietly while Mrs. Backus, our teacher, dictated the spelling words we had to learn by that Friday. She said if we behaved, we could sing Christmas carols. Since it was so cold outside, we remained inside at recess and began decorating our Christmas tree. Singing Christmas carols and getting all the words straight helped keep my attention on the joy right in front of me. I couldn't help smiling and feeling that warm spirit building inside of me. There were the glittering ornaments and the tree that Mr. Backus had brought in from his tree farm. It all made me feel very special. By this time, I had divided my classmates into 3 groups. My A group were those I talked to every day. They didn't stop talking when I walked near, and they didn't make fun of my homemade clothing. Instead, they greeted me with a smile and wanted to include me in all of their games and their gossip. Group B talked to me sometimes, made cutting remarks to me when they didn't like my clothing, and often excluded me from their games, their secrets, and their gossip. Group C often pretended I didn't exist at all. They were not always nice to me. Sometimes they made fun of me because they said I had a big chest. They called me Bra Girl. I tried to hunch over to hide my growing body, but it did no good. It made me feel powerless because there was absolutely nothing I could do about it except continue to hide. I never got an invitation from them to go to their birthday parties or their houses for playtime. They made fun of me for my high grades, my size, and my clothing. It was hurtful when they talked about these things. We just couldn't afford the clothing from the downtown stores. Grandma would sympathize with me and make one more thing out of the flour sacks or secondhand material or even cut up her own clothing to make me something new. Whatever she did, it couldn't measure up to their store-bought clothing. Still, it was a special day, and no matter what the other students did or said to me, they couldn't break my spirit. During recess, Dolores, a girl from the B group, came over to join my A group friends and me in a game of jacks. I wondered if she came over because she saw how happy I was. We were pleased to have her join us. During these cold winter days, I grew weary of being indoors because that is when my friends seemed to tease me more. We were all mischievous because we felt cooped up and anxious. I loved being in my classroom with its plants, the big fish tank, and mahogany desk. But I liked it best when we got recess out of doors, both morning and afternoon. I was always happy to return to the warm, welcoming space after I had run free. Whenever a winter day kept us inside, there was always a chance that Mrs. Backus would ask one of us to read aloud, which made me nervous. What if I didn't know a word? That would be so embarrassing. But my teacher often told me I was doing very well, and when she promoted me to the highest book reading level in our classroom, I wanted to reach out and shake her hand. As I said my thank you to her, I remembered all those nights I had spent on Grandma India's lap when I was younger. She had taught me to read in order to help cure my whooping cough and asthma. At the time, I thought it was a real awful curse happening to me, but instead, it turned out to be a big blessing. Grandma said that it was always the way it was in life. Back at home, we had fallen head over heels into the Christmas spirit and preparing for our yearly donation. Each year, we gave away toys and clothing so that the less fortunate could enjoy Christmas as well. As with all the years before, Grandma warned us that we could not donate clothes and toys that we didn't love. We could not expect Santa to give us anything if we only put our tattered, abandoned toys in the giveaway box. Never mind choosing things you don't treasure, Grandma always said as we struggled to gather up the items we were giving away. I want you to give things that are dear to you, things that bring tears to your eyes, things you'll miss. I knew I would have to give up my long, tall rag doll, Melly. She was just as tall as I was, and I could hardly think of life without her. But on that night, as I tucked her in, I whispered to her that this would be one of the last nights we could be together. I told her we would always love each other and that Grandma was insisting I give her away because she was so precious. I knew she would make some other little girl very happy. I don't know if Melly cried at the thought, but I surely cried into my pink satin pillow that night. Every evening during the pre-Christmas season, we would bake cookies and sit at the dining room table to have cookies and milk while Grandma read to us, and we made gifts for each other. Sometimes she would read to us about Christmas. At other times, she would read her favorite authors. Grandma told us we got stars in our heavenly crown if we made gifts for each other from scratch. For the last few weeks, I had sneaked into the hall closet and looked beneath her bed to search for what she called Santa's work. She was making all kinds of sock dolls, crocheting little handkerchiefs to cover the arms of her chairs and centers of tables, knitting sweaters for Conrad and me, making sweet-smelling soap, as well as whittling fun wooden toys. It made us giggle, Conrad and me, just to imagine what she might be making for us this year. Right before Christmas, Papa Will arrived with a huge, lush green tree. He loaded it into the house and pounded it into a stand. This year, watching some of the Christmas shows on television as we decorated our tree made it seem like an even bigger party. Spending time together around that newly decorated tree with its aroma of pine filled us with jokes and hugs and laughter. Our behavior resembled that of the people on TV, happy and carefree. I was certain this would finally be the time that Papa and Mother would come back together and we would be a family all under one roof again. I was disappointed when he bid us goodnight and headed for the front door. The big family Christmas dinner was different that year. We met at the beautiful new house of Mother's older brother, Uncle Charlie, and his wife, Aunt Annie, and their new baby, Larry. There were the usual band of close relatives and then some new ones because folks had gotten married. We were 15 adults and 6 children. I kept my eye on the door, watching and waiting for Papa Will to arrive. When we were eating what the grown-ups called hors d'oeuvres, Mother took Conrad and me aside to tell us that this year Papa Will would not be coming to join us. My spirits became all lumpy and dropped to my toes. I could feel tears burn just beneath the surface of my pretend smile as I put Papa out of my thoughts and listened to the cheerful chatter all around. As we gathered round the table, I couldn't help admiring the special china and crystal. The plates had piers with a red shiny stem painted in the center. Conrad had made the mistake of reaching for food before the blessing. He had at least 10 adult relatives pointing at him all at once. Apologizing, he whispered a Bible verse, and we sat quietly listening to Grandma India say the special prayer. Then, and only then, did Uncle Charlie put the huge carving knife to the goose. Aunt Annie's food was delicious because she was a professional chef who had made up the menus and cooked for the white high schools. Her very special marinated goose, smoked turkey, and honey-glazed ham, and all the trimmings made the base of a meal that everybody contributed to. I awaited Grandma India's special desserts and the gift opening that followed. As we gathered about the tree to exchange gifts, Uncle Charlie told Christmas stories to the children, and then the adults spoke of all the blessings they had enjoyed during the year. After opening our toys, we kids were ushered into the next room to play with each other. I couldn't help thinking how much I wished Papa Will had come.